Good evening, everyone. How's it going today? Welcome to our webinar. Let me know if you can hear me and see me well. Please put something in the chat, and we can also test if the chat is working. So, yeah, actually, okay. I see something in the Q&A, which is also fine, but better to use the chat because we have also this Q&A box for questions. So let's say I answered that live. Okay, so let's check if the chat is working, because sometimes it doesn't. Okay, we do have some messages. Yeah, everything is fine. Hello. All right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Kirillo, and I am a business analysis office director at SoftServe. And today we are going to have a very interesting and intriguing webinar, I hope at least. We're going to talk about approaching changes in organizations. And I think all of us as business analysts have to deal with changes in different ways. Yeah. So I think this topic will definitely touch experience of everyone here. But we're going to start this off a little bit slow, as always, to give a chance to more participants to join. So let's check, usually we do this thing on our webinars. Let's check where are you joining this webinar from. We usually have participants from a lot of different locations. So just put a few lines in the chat and let me know where you join into this webinar from. I mean, like your location. Okay, so we have Lviv, we have, which is Ukraine, we have Bulgaria. Nice. Let's see if there are more locations here represented. I am personally joining from Dnipro, Ukraine. Okay, we have Kiev, we have another Bulgaria, Dublin. Wow, cool. Dnipro, okay, another Dniprovian in the chat, always nice. Ireland. Okay, good. Rivne, NY. What is that? Is it New York? I think it is. Cool. Romania, Bucharest. Very good. Yeah, as I said, we have people joining all around the globe. Okay, so keep that information coming in the chat. We're also broadcasting in YouTube, so I see there are some pluses in the chat there, but you can also put some comments. If you're watching in YouTube, we will see that maybe with a little bit of delay, but that's also fine. So for the questions, we can use either the chat or the Q&A box. Both options work fine. Okay, another question to the audience. Please let me know if you already been to this type of webinars before, from Beacon, from business analysis community. So put something in the chat like yes, no, I don't know, something plus minus. If you already been here, no. Okay, so it's your first time here. Cool. That's very good. I hope you will like it. By the way, this is not the first webinar. We already had 4, I believe. So if you're interested, you can find them also on the YouTube channel. And we have some yeses in the chat. So we have some returned customers, which is always great to have. All right. We have also a whale emoji. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. All right. So before we start, I'll just want to talk a little bit about some educational projects that we have, and maybe invite you also to join, or just if you're interested in something like that, it maybe some interesting information. And by the way, we'll just give some more time for people to join. So we have 4 main educational projects as business analysis community and as a business analysis office at SoftServe. We have different courses for different types of students and with different, let's say, programs. Yeah, so we have, let me use this pen. So we have, first of all, we have this arts and crafts of business analysis. This is something for experienced business analysts. And this is the course which allows you to extend your knowledge, get a chance to practice some techniques, some new maybe approaches or workshops. And that's a very, very in-depth, I would say, course about business analysis. But the bad thing is that it's now in progress. I mean, it's not the bad thing, but maybe for if you're considering this course. And we're not planning to do this course this year anymore, but stay tuned. I will share the QR code on the next slide, and just stay tuned about the updates. And we will definitely have something in next year coming. So that's check. We have also Business Analysis Foundation course, which is a course for, I would say, beginners or people who just started their way in business analysis. So basically that is like foundation level, all knowledge that you need to have to start your career as business analyst. You can get there on this course. We are fully booked at this point. We have like basically sold out all the seats in the group, but you can apply for a waiting list. Things happen. Sometimes people, change their mind or just cannot join the course, and then you can have a chance to join this course. Again, if you're interested, and maybe your friends or your colleagues, so you can recommend this course to them. Okay, moving to the more like interesting and up-to-date things. Yeah, so we have this certification bootcamp. This course is targeted specifically for preparation to IABA certification, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. So it's like a bootcamp targeted specifically to get prepared to that type of certifications. So you can, like, if you want to prepare for CCBA and CBAP, there will be like a longer program for you. And if it's like ECBA preparation, it's a bit shorter. This course starts on Monday. We still have few seats available. So if you're considering or maybe like thinking about professional certification, thinking of like making yourself a Christmas present of obtaining IABA certification, this may be a very good opportunity for you to just join this course and get prepared. We usually have a very good what should I call it, like pass rate. Like the last group, I think like 50% of that group have already passed certification, and we try to keep track on these things, keep in touch with our like students. So that was a very, very good result, I would say. And the last in my list is the course which will start in November 2023. We still haven't opened registration for that course, but it's good to get the information a bit earlier, to consider that in the future. So this is a course that is a very unique course, I would say. It's based around product ownership analysis. So basically, it's based around CPOA certification of IABA, but it's not the preparation bootcamp. It's rather a very practical course with 10 different workshops that you as a product owner or product ownership analyst, which is like a new, I guess this is like a new normal now for business analysis, that you can join these workshops, you can practice a lot, and you can understand and apply these workshops on your own projects. And what is also interesting about that course, you can apply either like for all 10 workshops, but you can also choose workshops that you want to apply for, and don't pay for the rest. Yeah, so it's very flexible, let's say, policy there. Here's the QR code. If you're interested in one or many of those
Sorry, everyone. It seems that we have some technical issues on Kirill's side, and I believe, Yuri, you can take the floor and proceed with the webinar itself.
Evening, everybody. Yeah, unfortunately, it seems that Kirill will be joining us again just a little bit later. So, as you know from the announcement, this webinar included a guest, so it's me. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. Basically, just a few words about myself. You could know me as the author of Passionate Bee blog, right? So, and some of you from Ukraine, hello guys, you might know me as an author of Business Analysis Digest, right? Which I've been doing on the platform for the time being. And today I was going to speak on the mentioned topic, and I will do so just in a few seconds because we have Kirill back. Kirill, are you okay? Is everything good there?
Yeah, I mean, it's always happens. Like once you say like, let's go to the most interesting part, and then my network was out. I wanted to introduce you actually, Yuri, but now the surprise is blown. I don't know if let's just continue that way, so you can maybe say a few words about yourself and start the webinar. I'm
happy that everything's okay on your side. Yeah, just as I said, the author of Passionate Bee blog, business analyst with more than 10 years of experience in IT and business analysis. This November, it's gonna be 11 years. And currently, I'm in position of business analysis education and excellence program at NIX. Trying to help experts in the company to advance their skills. And one of the skills is an opportunity, a skill to move through the changes, right? So business analysis is all about the change, actually. We do that all the time. And basically each project is based around the change. Let me just share the presentation to continue. I just realized that I am not sharing anything.
You're sharing your thoughts and your experience, and that's quite
enough. Yeah. Oh, thank you for your kind words, actually. Yeah, so you should be seeing my screen right now.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so basically everything we do is based around the change. And I'm glad to share, to have an opportunity to share my thoughts on changes and the very specific part of the change, actually. Because at some point I understood that my fellow BAs, you stumble at this problem at some point, right? And to begin with, I would like to start with a few questions. And I would like you to answer them using our QA tool while I continue in my presentation. And I believe Anna or Irina will share them just in a moment in written. But basically, what are the questions? When was the last time you've introduced the change into the organization or the team? What was the change? How did people react to the change? And how did they feel towards you and the change? I believe this poll is a little bit early. So if you can remove it for now, it's going to be relevant just a few slides later. But basically, I just want you to think, when was the last time you've introduced any kind of change into your organization? Because if every one of you answered to these questions, I'm mostly sure that we will get a lot of different combinations of the answers, right? Because we work on unique projects, on complex processes, and with many different individuals. And basically, we follow unique processes. We work with different people, and these people are very different. All the elements actually add to the pleasure of the change, but people do the most, as I believe. Okay, I see you nodding. That probably you agreeing with me, Kirilla.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think no one else sees that except for you. Yeah, I definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so human factor is actually the most important in the change. And it's because we all possess different mindsets, life experiences, which leads us to different understanding of things around us, different attitudes to the change, and approaches how to perform it. And all these different kinds of things often lead us to unproductive attitude to new ideas. And I choose the topic because I understood that drivers of change, actually the business analysts who are drivers of change, fail because of one same approach, right? I realized that we business analysts who are probably the mostly sensitive to identifying issues around us, we do the same fundamental mistake. And I believe that in a good sense of this phrase, the brief description of the issue would be that we are playing the game, not playing the player. I believe that it might be a little bit confusing right now, but don't worry, I'll get back on the topic and everything would be completely understandable.
Not for the poker players. I think poker players know this phrase very well.
Yeah. Actually, this phrase comes from the poker, right? So, but before we proceed, I would like us to set the ground rules, to set the definitions for things we will be talking about today. First, the organization. By organization, I assume any group of people, small or large, which works toward the similar goal to achieve some common things, and they are basically under the same management or board of people. And this definition would be like defining the larger group of people, because we also have a team definition later on. Also, we will talk about the initiative and initiating changes, right? So initiative is a specific program, project, or any action which we take to actually solve a business problem, or not a business problem, just any issue in our life. And the initiative is basically a part of an agenda, right? Today, we will be speaking on selling our initiatives to people, and we will not talk about the actual sales techniques, but rather how people react to our initiatives. Next, we will talk about the team, which is a part of organization, of course, and the team could be both on receiving end and the giving end, right? You could be the one who introduces the change into the team, into their processes, or the team could be a group of people introducing change within the organization. And finally, we will talk about the change itself. Basically, that's an opportunity or a problem which you can address. And in the end of the process, we should get some value from the change, right? So we are moving from the current state to the future state. And change works to improve the performance of a team or the whole organization. In today's topic, we will talk about the about how we suggest changes, how people respond to them, and what we can do to improve the process of changing things around us. Now, when we are done with the definitions, we can move further. And I hope that you already working on those questions I started with, right? What was the change? When it was? What was the reaction? And how do you deal with it?
No one put
because-
anything in the chat, guys. Put maybe some answers to that questions in the chat.
Yeah, probably. Let me just put these questions to the chat.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to follow, you know, when you're trying to listen to you and also like thinking on the questions. So I mean, like for me, I would maybe like while you do that, comment on that thing you mentioned, the initiative. Yeah, this is like the change between the connections between all that things are like this initiative. Yeah, because you have like, let's say organization has their own like course of action for a certain strategy, and they have certain initiatives that they should like take. And then kind of change something, yeah, for better, for organization. And then they have teams who are assigned for those initiatives, right, to just go and do that. And like from my experience, like I used to work in the like a corporate business, and whenever we had the word initiative, it was like, you know, like a cold sweat going on, like from the top of the spine to the bottom. Because, you know, like we have a new initiative and everyone was like, oh my God, no, not again. but they can be positive, right?
Yeah, hopefully our initiatives are positive and actually always are focused on providing some value to the people. But well, it's not always a case when people accept the initiative right way. And that what we would be talking about today, right? Why does it happen? So why should you answer those questions in the chat? Because we hope to cut some time in the end of the presentation to go through your case and probably discuss with you and like share our ideas, what was wrong, what factor played in that situation, etc. But now we are venturing forth. So basically, as people, we tend to enjoy comfort, right? So we enjoy routine and the center of stability. We love it because we understand that how things work, and we expect them to work in the same manner tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and be as pleasant as today and not less pleasant, right? So as soon as this stability, this comfort is disrupted, we experience usually negative experience, at least in the start, right? Probably the positive later. But most commonly negative, even though we are modern people who are living in a constant state of change, right? The world changes around us. We cannot get used to it. Probably it's something feral, which brings anxiety, right? Because many years ago, people living in a cave, anything which changes probably is dangerous, right? Anything changes, the tiger eats you or something. So probably that comes from that background, even though we are like more intelligent people right now. On the other hand, we could enjoy the change, but the most important thing is that we should be in charge, right? If someone makes you to change, it's always painful. But if you are the initiator of the idea, if you are driving the change, it's better. Like buying a new phone, renovating your apartment, buying a new car, or something like that. These are also examples of changes out of work, right? However, if we are trying to follow someone change without them providing us enough information, enough endorsement, the change is likely not to be accepted. It will likely to leave a bad taste and drive a wedge between the people who drive the change and between us, between those who are trying to accept the change. As a result, at best, the implementation fails or the acceptance is prolonged. So to work through this lag, we need to know the factors affecting the people behind the change and those who are affected, and respond to those psychological factors surrounding the change. So what are these factors? What am I talking about? The first one is pretty simple. The first factor is just resistance to change. Some people tend to be resistant to new things, right? So they just don't like change. They don't want things to be better or worse. They love stability. And resistance both arises from psychological feeling and need for safety and security. And change always introduces the element of risk. And before I proceed, I saw a hand from someone. Was it like intentional or?
I think Roman was just, doing this gesture that
okay.
On the chat, sorry, on the slide. But guys, like, we have an opportunity to raise the hand, but we don't have an opportunity to unmute you. So if you have like a question, it's better to put it in the chat or in this Q&A box. But you can also like raise the hand when you think like, yeah, I'm agreeing with that, like something like that.
Okay, cool. Now I will try to make an example for each factor I will go through. For some, I will be like missing the examples. Probably Kirill will help me with that. But as for the resistance, I have my own example, right, from back then. So basically, at some point, things started to happen this way. I introduce a change and people just roll their eyes. So I say, hey guys, let's do this, or let's do this. And people just, one more change from Yuri, right? So back then, when I had much less experience and I was probably had more energy, I was trying to find all the issues around me, right? Not to close my eyes on anything. And of course, I raised all the issues I saw. And basically, at some point, I became like the problem of resistance, right? I built those resistance around myself. Of course, that was not always the case because of me, right? I also met people who were actually resistant to change just by nature. And with them, I built like kind of tactics. So I had 2 or 3 bad ideas in my pocket to start with when I communicated them. And when they were removed, those ideas, I introduced the actual idea. So it's kind of life hack, When you see a person who is just naturally resistant to something, give them an opportunity to criticize some of your ideas, some obvious, and then move on with something which is really important. It doesn't work all the time, but like most of the time, unless that person knows you too well and this trick doesn't work anymore. And it happens.
Yeah, I was going to say like it could only like work once maybe for a certain person, and then they get used to that tactic.
Yeah, just doing subtly, something like that.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick, like you watch this hand, but then like you're doing the magic with
Yes.
the other hand.
Yes, unfortunately, we have to play with players sometimes, not because they are bad or not because they're bad guys, right? It just they're like specifics of the people. All people are different, and you need to find a way to everyone. That's the way to work with naturally resistant people, at least at some point. Next, another important psychological factor is fear and anxiety. The change often triggers our insides worrying for the future, right? And that's a natural response to threat, because as I said, change is risk, and risk is a possible threat. So we can't do anything with that. It's our natural response. People may worry about the job security, adapting to the change, or how the change will affect their lives in general. I have an example here as well, and this example is actually quite common around there. So every time when someone introduces a change which has to affect the efficiency of production, right? For example, when back then people were introduced with heavy machinery instead of the manual labor, or now when we are introduced with ChatGPT, right? All the professions are, kind of worried that the people will lose their jobs. Even some business analysts, I wouldn't say their names, but they are like not afraid, but hyping on this idea that, wow, we will lose our jobs. But every joke is only partially a joke, right? So behind that is actual fear of change, right? Not seeing how it will help, but seeing how it will affect us. Another thing is a cognitive dissonance, if I pronounced that right. So basically, every person has their own set of beliefs, set of behaviors, which they are used to, and sometimes it conflicts with the change. People may intellectually understand that things need to change, right? You need to do things another way. But emotionally, they resist because they get used to something and they are challenged by this discomfort and they need to find their way around, and we need to help them. An example from my experience is when I tried to set up a new field in Jira. I tried to introduce a field which described a business value of a feature to the developers, to the quality assurance engineers, to the team. And I was populating that field just fine. But also other people were suggesting changes, suggesting features into the backlog. And I asked them to populate the field as well, so that they think of the value when they introduce a backlog item. What happened, unfortunately, people stopped generating ideas because they had to think about one more thing. They need to spend like 5 more minutes on thinking about what kind of value should the feature bring. So their creativity process stopped. My mistake was not explaining them why. I just asked them to do that. Just very short explanation. But I had to walk them through the understanding of the impact of each feature on deadlines, on the business, on customers, etc. So don't do like I did. Also, there is a thing called change fatigue. When the organization or any change agent keeps producing changes, like keep producing enhancement to the process, to anything. At some point, people just don't have energy to follow all the ideas you are producing. They need time. They need to cut their time out of their work to do enhancement, like to grind the axe, as they say. They need to think about things. They need to be creative sometimes to fix issues. And all this kind of things around them, which are becoming a snowball and growing all the time, they just lead to disengagement of people, right? They don't want to be introduced to any other change. They try to avoid, they try to maybe take a sick day, just not to be around there, or say that they have a lot of work and something. So try to find the balance between your unstoppable flow of ideas and the actual energy people have there. Because otherwise you will get reduced productivity, decline in morale, and decreased engagement, as I said. And of course, no innovation, because people don't want to be creative anymore. And one more thing is loss aversion. Basically, every time we need to accept something, we need to do something, we try to weigh either we will get profit from change, or we will get some kind of loss. And people tend to focus on the latter, right? So on losing something, because getting something is like a vague idea of the value. You might not understand it quite well. The idea might not be communicated well to you. You might see that the enhancement is very small, very it's tiny, but you need to spend a lot of time. You will have to make some demo probably to the stakeholders, which is scary to you probably, or something. So people focus on that part. And unless you show them how valuable this change would be to them, they will tend to avoid your change and resist. So these are 5 main factors of internal resistance, which I understood for myself, which I see in people all the time.
Can I jump in here? I have
Sure, please.
A question for you, maybe, or like I have a story, I have an example, and I'm trying to understand like what type of psychology, like of change, what type of these 5 cases this example fits to. So we had a colleague of mine, a business analyst, on the project. He was like doing like a lead business analyst role. So he had like a team of 5 or 6 business analysts, and he wanted to introduce this report that I don't remember the reason for that, but like, to gather some information from all the business analysts on like a regular basis, like once a week, to analyze that information somehow. And he introduced this change. He said like, yeah, let's do this kind of report. And no one was resistant. Everyone says, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then like after a few months, he realized he was the only one who was like submitting that report. No one else was doing that. Yeah, so they like pretty much agreed but ignored. So what type of these cases would that be? I'm not sure actually, because from my point of view, the problem was the absence of sustainability, right? So this person introduced the change and never controlled the change. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah, they unfortunately failed that part, the controlling. It's a common mistake to think that people should be like automatically engaged in things which you introduce. If you said so, they just try to do that all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like in some companies, you need to like, in the end of the day, tell what you did through the day. And companies control that. But if you want to introduce some kind of reminder or anything else to help people like do that, mm-hmm. It will fail. You have like a long business day, 8, 9, 10 hours, and you just need to remember a small little thing which is not valuable to you, right? So probably one of the future factors I will be talking might be like relevant, because I don't see resistance here, no fear, no obvious fatigue, maybe loss aversion. Maybe they just thought it's not valuable for them. Maybe it was a fatigue as well. I mean, we don't have enough context for that. Yeah. But this is also like the one thing I thought about here, like, working with changes like every day. Yeah, in my profession, in my role, I have to work with the changes every day. And, I think I caught myself thinking about like in our industry, like in IT, you cannot just, force the change on people. We wouldn't work like in some other type of business, or where hierarchy is different, where your boss says, you do as I say, and like everyone just agrees with that. Yeah, we cannot do it. It's much more complicated. So just one thing I want our audience to do is like, maybe you can share some stories, something like similar to what I shared in the chat, how you maybe got in some situation where you tried to do a change, but it didn't work out, or maybe success stories. If you have some, it would be nice to read that while we're like discussing.
Yeah, that would be actually great to share your experience on the change. And like commenting on your comment, I highly recommend to explain the value and not being a boss around people when you introduce the change. Even when you have to do things quickly, you have to make an administrative decision, you will need to spend at least some time to explain why. Yeah.
Yeah, and be ready to answer questions, because people tend to ask questions. Actually, not our audience today, no questions yet, but I hope more will come.
Yeah, I hope so. Actually, I've another reason I wanted to speak on this topic, because, I've never heard any business analyst to speak on such thing. We always speak about the process, about the tool, about the technique, but we never speak about the people behind it for some reason. well, it's just my experience. It's what I see among the topics. Well, maybe there are no questions right now because people not used to think about this thing all the time. And that's okay as well. So this presentation is for sharing this awareness at least. Okay, so moving forward, these were 5 internal psychological factors which affect the change. There are also external factors. So the first one is lack of communication on the topic, right? As we just discussed with Kirill. If you introduce the change to the organization, to the team, you just can't go and say, guys, do like this. At best, they just don't understand. They ask questions. At worst, they don't do nothing and ignore you, right? So people need to be in context. People need to understand the value. People need to understand why, what to do, how to do. They need instructions. And moreover, to understand the impact of their own actions on this value. Because we need to be involved. And we don't like to work without a purpose, right? Some people do, but most, as I agree with Kirill, they don't. Another thing is lack of long-term vision. For some ideas, for some changes, they take a lot of time, and people don't understand how it will affect their future or the future of organization. So when you are initiating like a huge change, something massive, you need to explain people how would it affect the long-term goals of the organization, long-term goals of your department, of your team. And failing to articulate these goals makes people confused about what would happen next, right? So basically that's it. Just tell people what to do, why to do that, and like tell them more about your strategy, about your mission. People need to be involved, need to understand what's happening around there. Another bad thing is ignoring feedback. Listening to feedback of your team, of your organization is vital, because in the end of the day, you are introducing change which directly affect people, right? There are no changes that don't affect people in direct or indirect way. Hearing feedback and accepting feedback demonstrate that concerns of people are valued and considered. Sometimes organizations don't actively seek for the feedback for different reasons. Maybe the leadership is not like too, how do you say it? They're not sure if the change is good. Maybe someone from the leadership don't accept it. Maybe they are not sure in themselves. You know, maybe there's thin ice between leadership and people in organization. Many different things happen. But anyway, when feedback isn't acknowledged, it reinforces feeling of frustration and disengagement. That's 100%.
A question here from my side, like
Sure.
about the feedback, like from your experience, like what's the most effective way of getting the feedback? You know, gathering that feedback from the stakeholders. Let's put it like that.
That's a good question, actually. I prefer eye-to-eye feedback, right? When you build trust in a way when your stakeholders, like they are ready to give you constructive feedback. They know that they will be heard, and you know that if you give feedback into other way, they will also accept it. And if I remember correctly, that's like an expert level of IABA competency model. So using these kind of feedback with the stakeholders is quite complicated, because not always they are ready to listen and not ready to be direct and truthful with you. Especially some nations, probably, yeah. Some nations are more direct, others less direct. That's why probably the most working thing is a kind of questionnaire which you send to people, and it should be like very brief, just a few questions, because people don't like to answer for long questionnaires, like to provide a lot of information, especially if it's like a high-level stakeholder which has like a few minutes to answer your questions. They probably will ignore this. But these two are the best for when you have not that many stakeholders. And what's from your experience? What's the best way to get feedback on a change, on a process change, or like something huge change in the organization?
Yeah, I would say, like from my experience, the best way is to combine, the channels, because, as you mentioned, someone may not be comfortable telling you the truth, like face to face. Yeah, for some, it may be a better way to leave like anonymous feedback or something like that. So, we like in our company, we have a lot of tools for getting feedbacks, and you can like have some sort of like a combined way. You just not to overwhelm people again with that tools, but studying like who is more likely to give you a feedback eye to eye, who is more likely to respond via like anonymous email and email, no, not the email, but the survey or something like that. So yeah, even voting sometimes helps, like just have a poll or something like that, and ask the audience. By the way, did we forget about our poll, or did we launch it?
We will get to the poll just in a few minutes in the end of the slide. Yeah.
Yeah. So poll is also a good way of getting.
Yes, actually.
And we actually had a very extensive comment in the chat. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure. So for the previous question, not sure for which one. In today's job interview, I've conducted the root cause analysis on why the current BA was leaving. The reason was resistant to change from the teams on the client side, which came from their cultural mentality. Yeah, that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This posed a direct problem to the problem success by creating bottlenecks. The only perceived solution was to outsource the function to Ukraine, which the client wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. Not sure why. Okay, so to outsource the function, you mean to change the stakeholder? Well, yeah, that's a possible solution, of course. If you can't agree with people, you can change the people behind the change. That's an actionable thing, but that's a luxury, I believe, right? Usually we don't have that luxury. You can't change people.
Yeah, I mean, like for that type of situation, the short-term or quick solution is like outside of business analysis domain. I would say it's probably like a project manager domain. To explain, to mitigate the risks, to suggest something. But in the long run, this is our job to educate our BAs that resistance to change is normal. Yeah, and this is something that you have to work with most of the time. This is like your day-to-day work, and this is like what the session is about. So like in the long run, I think working with the BAs, explaining that this is normal, this is what you're supposed to do to work with this change and overcome this resistance, or at least have a thick skin and not to just leave because like someone doesn't listen to you. But I know, I mean, that's not kind of the answer to the Olga's question. As a short-term solution, it's hard to say. Yeah, find another BA. Like if this guy is leaving, there's not much that you can do at this point.
Actually, I just want to say that probably there are more reasons behind than just the mentality, because blaming mentality seems to be quite an easy trick, the cheap trick, and maybe the root cause was just a different thing. Another comment on that is my experience shows that if there is any kind of resistance, there is no trust, right? So if you have trust, there is much less resistance between people, and that's just a thing. You need a lot of time actually to build trust. That's true, but if you don't do that at all, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, great.
And that's a completely different topic, how to build trust. Unfortunately, we won't touch that today too much.
Yeah, but the thing that you said, it also takes time, and this is something that needs some several years in some cases, to build like a real trust with the client and with the stakeholders on the client side. So, yeah, but thanks to Olga for this story, and please put more stories like that in the chat. We're fond of such things. Yes,
and if we have more time in the end, maybe you can get back to this one if you add more detail. But anyway, getting back to the external factors, we are in the middle of presentation probably, so we need to move forward. Another problem is lack of training. Sometimes for some reason, we expect people to just know what to do, right? We introduce the change. If somehow we think that they know how to do that, they understand it completely just because they're, for example, another business analyst, right? If you introduce the change into a team of seniors, our senior business analysts, you expect them to be in the context like this automatically, but it doesn't happen like this, right? For example, when you, just a common example is when people like me try to comment from BA bug, right? Like the definitions in the very beginning. The reason why I made this slide, because I don't want me to expect that all the listeners know those definitions by the book, because not everybody read the book or read it in detail, right? Not being ready for CBAP or something. So don't do that mistake as well. Provide context, provide training, provide explanation, invest into this. Another issue is lack of leadership support. As I previously briefly told, not always the whole leadership accepts the change, right? There are people who are against. They might be having a say in the end when everything is done, or in the middle, or in the beginning. And that's also a problem. And another bigger problem on top of that is when you don't have feedback from leadership support from their subordinates won't accept the change as well. Because if people don't show an example, if leaders are not following the change and not accepting, why would we? And that's a huge problem which happens all the time. It happens all the time, basically, in any organization, in any management. Just remember any time when you're probably team leads or the president of your department or the competency said something, and then lower leadership didn't accept it, but passed thing further, and no one accepted it because, well, the middle management didn't accept it. It happens all the time. One more thing is empowerment and involvement. So if you just put things on people from top, it works sometimes. People may even accept and do things, but they will never be as effective as they could be unless they were a part of the change. When you have a possibility to give feedback, to affect the change directly, to have a say, it boosts morale and adds a buy-in from the people affected by the change. It provides a sense of autonomy and control. And as I said, we enjoy changes mostly only when we control it. And finally, recognitions and rewards. If you do the change and if there are people doing this change for you, and when it's done, you just say, okay, it's done, let's go to the next thing. The next thing you introduce for those people, it would not be accepted because they did some work, the work was good, but no one recognized it, right? Recognizing teams and individuals and their efforts and contributions is essential. People thrive for reinforcement, for positive reinforcement. So don't forget to say thank you, good job, maybe throw some pizza or something. Just say thank you for the people. So overall, addressing all these psychological factors requires an empathic approach to change management. You need to create a supportive environment where people feel heard and accepted. This will create a positive atmosphere for accepting any change you do. Now, as I see that we have just not that much time, I will briefly go through the 5 stages of change which you need to understand. They're very different from 5 stages of acceptance, but a bit similar. So first, when we are introduced with change, it's pre-contemplation. So we ignore the change, we are in denial, and we probably won't do it, right? We need to gather information about the change. We need to understand why. We need to know what's happening. Next comes the contemplation phase, when people recognize the change, finally, when they have enough information, but they still are hesitant to the change. They're unsure if it's going to work. They have lack of information. In this context, you need to throw additional details to them, and that's the focal point to moving forward. Next is preparation. That's the stage when you start working on the change, you start gathering documentation, you start writing the process of change, you start analyzing the future state, probably more details, and building transitional plan. Next comes the actual action, or how they call it, willpower stage, when you are on the maximum level of motivation, getting ready to the change and doing it. This actually corresponds to new kind of system, process, or behaviors, anything which you change. And finally, probably the most important step, which is called maintenance, right? If you throw a change, as Kirill showed an example probably with that report, the BA lead asked to write, and then in a month, they understood that no one's writing that report besides them. That's probably was a fail of maintenance period, right? So you need to be sure that people doing things. You need to control it, or maybe facilitate, ask if they are comfortable with the change, if it works for them, if it shows value to them, if they understand it. And these stages are applicable for both individual behavior or organizational transformation. So knowing all these stages will help you to understand which instruments to apply at this specific moment. Now, of course, changes don't happen by themselves. Behind every change is a change agent, right? So an advocate of change. Usually that's a business analyst or something who performs business analysis. As you know, business analysis is not a role, but a mindset. And many people could be business analysts, like project managers, actual analysts, QA, any people. So actually, they are change agents. And to be a good change agent, you need to first understand, you need to have vision and goals which are articulated, and you need to know the current and future state and communicate that to people. Next, you need to lead people, not boss around, right? As I said, if you just push changes down, it won't work in many cases. People won't accept these changes. You need to create a collaborative approach, collaborative environment. In essence, basically, the role of change agent is not to probably perform the change, actually. Yes, it's important part. But the most important part is to lead the journey, to build the journey, to people feel good through the journey. Another important thing is to show an example, right? So being leader means not only throwing commands, it means actually doing stuff. So if the leader of the change does not participate in any way and just gives an order, the change would be less accepted, actually. You need to help people by showing your own example and doing stuff. Also, the change is all about persistency. You cannot just say, go change, and it happens, right? So you need to continue the journey. You need to go through all of these steps. You need to support people on each step, actually. And of course, show empathy and understanding. We throw many process things to people, but we forget that there are people behind the changes, right? The people who maybe not accepting, maybe feeling bad, maybe having something in their life and maybe counterproductive at some point. So you need to catch those things and help people go through the change. And of course, don't forget that one size does not fit all. You need to understand that some people will need more time to accept the change, to go through it. Some people will need more training than the others. Nurture the individual approach about things, about your changes. And we're having just a few more slides. The next one is about facilitating the change. We know that the change is actually it's not something unknown. We know how changes work in the process, and they are covered in many kinds of literature, in by book even. We know that we need to analyze current state, define the future state, define the strategy, understand how the transformation will be going, evaluate how we did things, and then plan for improvement. But that's just a process, right? I would like to talk more important things probably about people factor in the change, in facilitating it. And the first one is to build coalition and gain allies. If no one supports your change, if you're introducing it in a large organization, you might get into a situation when you are the one for the change, right? So we need to find people who will endorse it, people who will be accepting it, and better to find allies among those who were originally against the change. It's like a killer feature. It is important to celebrate small steps through the change. Don't just throw a huge party in the end. Each small success need to be recognized. Also, go beyond just the change scope. Try to do more for the people. If, for example, you need to create some documentation supporting the change, describing the process, try to get the understanding which other processes it affects, like link those documents so that people probably easier find it or something. So just try to do more. Also, you need to sustain the change. The change is not about the implementation. Change is about long-term sustainability. So basically, you need to keep doing the change so that it works. And this is a huge step. And finally, support people behind the change. Because if people don't want to do it, change won't happen. Finally, just two more slides. We went through the different factors which affect the change, how to facilitate it. And now I just want to share for the finishing touches a few things which you shouldn't do and which you should do through the change. Don't compare your previous team or your previous success with the current team and their process. It's like saying to your other half that your mom cooked the dish better, you know? It won't help you.
I was going to say it works with girlfriends as well. The same thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Please don't compare. It's the unique process. You are with those people. Don't be resistant. Help them go through it. Don't blame anyone for not succeeding. It's a common problem when the driver of change or leadership starts blaming people for not being quick enough, effective enough, not learning things quickly enough, and so on. This won't help you. Just remove blaming at all. Better nurture the environment of help and tell people that making mistakes during the change is normal. It's better to make mistakes now than in future when the change is done. Also, pushing down is a no-no. It's I'm repeating myself again, but it's very important. So going forward. Another bad thing is micromanagement, actually. You need to provide people with the autonomy through the change. If you drive every single step, if you look into every single moment of how they transfer from current state to future state, they probably will be discouraged because of too much attention and thinking that, well, probably I'm doing something wrong as my lead looks at me with like spends so much time to guide me through the change. People need to do things by themselves. Also, you should not forget that there are people behind the change, right? They are challenged by the change. They have fear, they have anxiety. Work with that all the time. The process is the process, but work with people. And don't promise talk about the value of the change, but don't promise the mountains of gold. If something goes bad, you will be like a bad person for them because you promised the bright future. Just be constructive about that. And finally, what you should do or you must do. Tread lightly. Approach the change with sensitivity and empathy. Acknowledge that change can be unsettling and people could not just adapt like this. So think about people's emotions, concerns, and provide reassurance when needed. Maybe at some point you need to stop with the change and give people the rest. You need to have clear transition plan. You need to show people exact steps to go through the change. You need to explain their responsibilities. You must not expect from them to know how things work from the very beginning. So very small wins, as I said, be agile, be ready to change through the change, right? To go in a different way. Don't be like that guy from Waterfall. We have a plan, we will stick to it no matter what. Be ready to adapt through the process. Provide a lot of emotional support. I will stick to that point many times, and that's very important because if people feel bad through the change, they won't accept it. And also document the journeys. Catch best practices, catch problems, pass them to the people so they could help you probably with the change. And document everything, because in the end of the change, when no one knows where to refer, how it should work, and everything in people's heads, it's a huge problem always. And to finish or wrap up, that's actually a wrap. That's the best picture I found to this summary. I would like to say that we are exposed to intricate process of introducing changes, both for individuals and organizations. I hope I showed you that the change is not just a series of directives, right? It's not just a command, it's not just an order. That's a dynamic journey. And successful change management is more about, it's not just about technical implementation, it's about people and their willingness to embrace new ways of doing things. And now I would like to get back probably to the chat and see if we have something else to talk about.
We have
hear a question.
Yeah, I'll read it for you. So first of all, we have one from Olga, who had this previous situation explained. So basically, like the question, the follow-up question to that situation is it worth joining the organization where you have little control over process efficiency? So what's your take on that?
Well, to be in charge of processes, you need to be on a position which allows you to change process, you know. It's a trick question because when you're a junior analyst or on any junior position, probably you won't have a control over the change at all. It might be like a red flag if no one listens to your feedback, but it could be like a just normal thing. To be in charge of something, you need to build authority. And authority and trust is also built through years. So if you know that some organization doesn't listen for their employees at all, and everyone screams through all the chorus about that, probably you shouldn't. But if you like feel that nothing changes and that's your just first steps, don't be that critical to the situation. Spend some time. It's like Simon Sinek, you know probably Simon Sinek, right, Kirill? It's a famous person from the West. He speaks a lot of things about the team collaboration, about team building process, not like drinking with each other, but building teams. And he worked a lot with Navy SEALs. And in one of his speeches, he told that it specifically was about young people who work in organization for about half a year, and they tell him that they are going to swap the organization, change the place of work. Simon asked those people, why does it happen? And they say, because I don't make a difference here. Yeah, I don't have control over things. And it's crazy because we think for some reason that we join organization and people need to listen to us right away because we are here, because we're part of the organization. But that does not how the world works. We need to build authority. We need to build trust with people. Then they will listen to us.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And like what I would just add, maybe if you can just empathize with like a boss in this situation. Yeah, so imagine you're someone who's hiring a person, and this person, like from the couple of months in the company, starts like, making suggestion. And of course you will be a bit like hesitant with the suggestions. You need to know this person, you need to build the trust and make sure that you can trust this person, and it has like the the experience and proved that he or she can make these changes and make good suggestions and make this other meaningful things in the company. So just be patient and don't be so fast to make a decision. But yeah, if after some time you see that like whatever, and you see that like not only on your example but on the other people example who worked long time in that organization, and like the let's say the management does not listen, and you want to be heard, yeah, maybe it's not the organization for you. So it all depends. Now, continuing on the topic of trust, here we have a comment from Igor, who does not agree with that. He says, I believe that trust is not the reason. Person that get used to smoke won't stop that only won't stop that only because of trust, which I would argue with. Like if he trusts that it's bad for him, he would probably stop. As for me, says Igor, all changes get started as a favor, proceed with the interest, and finished because they want to show off with the results. So that's something maybe related to the celebration part that you mentioned. So just a comment. I don't know if you want to like add something to that. Or
yeah, actually, I can comment on that because for some reason I just remember the TV series Suits. You probably heard of that. It's about the New York lawyers. And their change is all about the favors and all that stuff. But probably if we are talking about like very different life when we are not discussing things in a constructive way, when it's not within the organization, when the people from the scratch, they are not they just won't just pursue their own interests, which happens with people from different organizations. Yeah, probably that could be a thing. But I believe that in organization, we have to nurture the idea of the trust and the constructive feedback and constructive collaboration. When any person from any level could speak to another person in a constructive way. Probably that's my utopia, but that's what I'm trying to do at least.
Okay, the next comment is kind of this, be careful what you wish for situation. So we asked for some stories in the chat, and Roman had put the very, very long comment there. I was like, first I was thinking like, what is it, like a new Harry Potter book in the comments? But I read through that, so I'll try to make it short. So basically he describes the situation that he works on the Safe-like project with 7 business analysts, and they wanted to introduce some metrics to make sure, like, they, let's say, check the quality of their performance and how ready they are for upcoming iterations. So they agreed to start tracking several metrics like grooming horizon, backlog horizon, basically pretty much the same thing. So they started tracking that. And then it kind of showed that several teams, they started sprints in ad hoc manner and didn't have enough planning work in advance. So they brought these results to their client, but client didn't want to take the side of this metrics. They didn't want to kind of agree on that because it would make his employees, like his product managers, look bad. Yeah, so that's in general, that is the situation. And he's asking for a suggestion. How could you sell such a metric in a maybe better way so it wouldn't, hurt maybe the other people, but still work for that project. And I'm sorry if I misinterpreted what you said, Roman, but the comment is really long.
Yeah, I forgot that correct, that it's a situation when you are a parent of a child and another child beats your child, and you go to the mother of the child and say, hey, your child is bad. You know what you will get in response, right? Huge problem. Here is the same. Yeah, probably. So you showed the client that their employee are bad, and yeah, they didn't accept it. Well, probably the first step would be to speak to those product managers and ask them why didn't they follow the process you created. Probably they didn't see either the value of your suggestion or they didn't agree on it in the first place. It happens. People just we say that if person says nothing, it's the person says yes, but it's not the thing, right? As I learned through my experience, if person says nothing, you need to receive the answer. Otherwise, you will have problems. So probably they didn't see a value or they didn't understand how things should work. Maybe this roadblocked them from something, like their employer, your client, was pushing them with the deadline, and your new idea roadblocked them and they decided to avoid it. So these are the ideas why. And the relevant solutions would be to talk to them and ask them, actually, what happened? Why didn't you do it?
Yeah, I mean, this is you have to be really careful when communicating that stuff. This is a great example that you show with complaining to a different mother that your son or your daughter beat up my kid. And yeah, I also experienced something like that. When sometimes we get so carried away with our performance that we might forget that we might put different people on the client side in a bad shade. Yeah, I would say throw some shade on them, and this you have to be very careful with that, because client would definitely rarely accept let's say, outsource company or like partner company point over the point of their own employees, especially because they have much more time with them, you know, and they communicate much frequently. And this is again about the communication. And adding to that, you know, while I was saying that, I thought of another thing that I wanted to say. Offline experience helps, you know, from my experience, like you talked about team building, yeah, this type of activities. When you have a possibility to spend some offline time with your colleagues, you know, from the client side or from whatever side, yeah, it's the offline experience or out of work experience, let's put it like that, also helps, you know, when you become, you know, more friendly, you know, you have some things in common. It helps to build trust faster. Yeah, again, about the trust, and it helps to make communication smoother. And then, you know, it helps to slide this change down that slide.
I totally with you on this, and well, my experience as yours also shows that you may change the process many times. You can try new techniques. You can try, you know, every other way to like shift the bats in the room, you know that saying. Mm-hmm. But you need to work with people in the end of the day. Yeah. You need to build trust with them. People need to see you in person. It's like you see me right now in your screen, right? That some person, yes, they have experience, they say they are business analyst, but hearing all this stuff I just told you, it's very different from if we had a conversation face to face, right? In a room, probably with a glass of wine or something. You would accept the information I told you very different way. I believe you like went through the process in your life, right? So yeah, that's very important.
Okay, and adding to that, we have a comment from Dorina. She says it's very similar to the good sales process for me. You can't force a person to be involved, but you can spotlight the main goal and make more people your allies in reaching out. Especially if you have a charismatic type of personality. And I think we can just agree on that, because like we said that, yeah, you have to sell the idea, you have to make a sale, basically. That's, you're not selling something like a product, but you're selling the idea of a change, basically. It works the same way.
That's true. The more years of experience I was getting, the more I was coming up with the understanding that I'm not a business analyst, I'm a salesperson most of the time, because I need to explain people the why, and they need to accept it.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as a salesman, but you know, once you said it, I kind of start thinking in that direction too. Well, so we have also a story like from Desislava. Let me read that one. So not that long ago, I had to introduce a change into one team's process. I started by introducing the idea and looking to understand how it will be accepted. As there was no response, I waited for some time and repeated the exercise. Since there was no feedback, on the second try again, I splitted the change on smaller steps and started introducing by monitoring the acceptance. From my experience, there is no easy acceptance for change, and very important to consider the audience properly. So here's like the decomposition of change, I would say. Decompose it to smaller pieces. Do you have like anything to say about that?
Well, no, actually, eating the elephant by the pieces is probably the best people like created in terms of introducing changes.
Yeah, I mean, it would be easier to accept, yeah, if you have to accept small change. And it's actually, it's like, I like the thing that you said, like in the beginning, like you throw out some bad ideas, you know, get people to refuse them. And then like, and what about this one? And then like people are okay, I refused enough of the ideas, so maybe we can accept that one. So this is also,
yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we have anything else. We have a thank you from Roman. So thank you for that long comment, Roman. I hope you're not tired from typing, and I hope our like answer was sufficient enough for you. Okay, let me check if we have anything in YouTube. I don't think we had any comments there. No, not at this point.
Okay.
All right, so shall we wrap this up? Do you want to bring up the wrap?
Yeah. Sure. I like this picture actually a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that I had something to eat before you showed it, because otherwise I would be really like hungry with the picture.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Okay, so thank you guys for watching us and for participating in this webinar. Thank you, Yuri, for joining us. It was a very interesting talk. Yeah, thanks for that picture. And I hope it was useful for all our listeners and our audience, and you will do a better work with introducing the change starting from tomorrow.
And it was my pleasure being with you. Thank you for having me. Happy to share experience with you guys.
All right, let's keep in touch. So good evening and bye-bye.